All right, welcome to another video of Node by Node Challenge, which is going to be going through every single node in Blender, explaining a little bit about how the node works, what it is, and some ways you can use it. And we've gone through a bunch already, and we're going to be going through a new one today. And I am no expert on any of these nodes, but I've compiled a lot of information from various sources, TikTok, YouTube, all sorts of tutorials, paid websites, all kinds of things that I've used for this information, and trying to compile in one area that you guys can go through and have a basic idea. Now, none of these are going to be in-depth tutorials. If you want in-depth tutorials, definitely worth searching on some of these, but this will give you an idea if it's something you want to learn about, and then you can go and research it a little bit more. So today we're going to be talking about another input node, and this one is called the light path node. Now, this is a really cool one because there's all sorts of cool effects that you can do. Now, I had to set up my scene in order to be able to make this work and for you to understand how this works. It took me a few tries, and so hopefully I won't mess any of this up. But basically what I did is I created a cube, and the cube has a glass BSDF on it. So all it is just basically a glass cube. I've got a Suzanne here, and Suzanne is basically the basics of Suzanne is she's going to have a material output, one mix shader, and two diffuse BSDFs. There's a reason I'm using diffused, and I'll explain in a minute, but basically just pick two colors and then plug them into the shader, and you can leave it 50-50 so it comes out purple like this. This left wall, I've got a glossy BSDF on it, and I brought the roughness almost down to 0, so it's pretty much reflective. The back one has a transparent, the back one has another diffused one, so it's just pretty basic. And then I got another diffused one here, and then I've got a right side wall that's the same thing. It's another diffused one. So two diffused walls in a floor, and then a glossy on the left-hand side, a glass cube here in the middle, Suzanne, and then I've got two different transparent planes. So I just created a plane and rotated it in the front, and then I did the same thing. I got two of them in a row here, and I have them just spaced out a little bit in front of Suzanne. So that being said, that is the start of the scene. Now, basically all light path node is it's a bunch of different ways that the light interacts based on what materials that it goes through. So if you want to be able to change how something interacts or how it looks, whether it gets hit by light, whether it gets hit by multiple objects, one object, this is what you would want to use. So I'll show you an example. So we've got it set up that it's just showing purple for Suzanne here. If I take is camera ray and I drop this into the factor of the mix shader, you're going to see that if the camera has one ray going from this Suzanne back to the camera, it's going to show the second color, which is red. If it's going through multiple sources, so it goes from the camera to Suzanne to wall, or from camera glass Suzanne, then it's going to be blue. So is camera ray is basically direct light, it's going to be one color. If it's not direct light, it's going to be another. So that's pretty basic. Now, is shadow ray is a little bit different. I've got instead of using a diffuse BSDF for the second one, I'm going to throw on a transparent. And the reason why is I want to see what happens when I want to be able to change my shadows that it creates. So you'll see when I do is shadow ray into the factor and I have one of these as transparent, what it's doing is it's taking whatever color I pick for the transparent and making that be my shadow. So I've got a purple shadow here, and you can see, and that's based on how you have this set up. Okay. Next one, we're gonna go ahead and put the diffuse BSDF back on here. So when we put the diffuse BSDF back on here and we do the is diffuse ray, anytime that it passes onto a diffuse subject, it's going to create a shadow as well. So you'll see that this one is creating a kind of like a reddish shadow a little bit. It's hard to see in the image here, but basically it's creating a red shadow a little bit here just based on the fact that it's going through any diffused material. Okay, Next one on here we have is glossy. So if the light passes through and hits a glossy material, which is going to be like the cube or this wall that's almost fully glossy, it's going to create this second color. If it goes, the light hits it directly and does not go through a glossy substance, it's going to be the first color, which is blue. So once again, pretty straightforward. Next one is singular ray. So is singular ray is the same thing. If it's going to have direct contact and not go through another object, and it's one single ray, it's going to be blue. Okay, whereas if it has more than one, it's going to be red. So that basically just means that it's going to change color based on how many objects it's going through. Is reflection ray means that only reflections will get the red color. So this is a reflection, so it's red. Suzanne, it's just direct light. Looking straight through this is not a reflection either. But what you will see is you're going to start seeing reflections on the corners and outsides of this. Anytime you see a reflection of something, it's red. Otherwise, it's not. This would be useful. Let's say that you wanted to have somebody looking into a mirror and one side has one material and the other side has another material. You can have it to where a reflection is going to show that. So that'd be a cool way, cool little trick you could do with that. Okay, is transmission ray. So is transmission ray is going to be any time that it's going through and seeing through something and being reflected like this. So you're going to see the transmission on here. Everything inside here is red, whereas anything else, including the reflections in the walls, are all blue. Okay. All right, the next one is ray length. So if we look at ray length and we go ahead and plug this into our mix shader here. So first of all, the way the color is designed has to do with how far it away is from the camera to the actual object. So that's the length that you have. So if you just plug it in, it's just going to show everything's at a full distance. That's why it shows everything as red. But if we go in and we throw on a math node and we change it to divide, and we go ahead and we raise this number up, what you're going to see is as you get higher up with a number, it's going to start to blend this object. So it's got blue when it's closer up. It's like a mix, like a purple when it's reflecting. It's a little bit farther away. So you're going to see that based on the length, because it's going to hit here first, it's going to go through and bounce off. It's going to hit the Suzanne, or actually Suzanne, then come back through the glass. So it gives you an idea. It's basically a way that it'll blend between the two of them using that divide node from the math node. Okay, so that's ray length. Ray depth is similar in that factor. The only difference is actually if we plug in ray depth, the difference is that you're not going to want to divide. You're actually going to want to just subtract, because they're just talking about the distance from one object to the next. So we go ahead and we bring this down. You're going to see that it gives you the ability once again to control, and there's 3 different colors. So the closest to it would be red, then blue, then purple is farther away. So it allows you to control not only what the colors of it going through the first object is, but then the second and then the third. So it's one way that you can do that. And by having it partial numbers, it allows you to change the colors, as you can see, depending on the number of reflections. So that's a cool one that you can do. Next up is going to be diffuse. So diffuse depth is going to be any diffused object. So that means that reflections are onto the diffused object on the floor. Same thing with any of the reflections, shadows on the floor. That's where that's going to come in. And basically you would have it to where you could subtract it and use 0. You get a little bit of a reflection on there. 1 is a little bit less. So usually if you just put 0, that'll add in that little bit of reflection on the ground. Next would be glossy. So glossy is going to be only affecting anything that has that has a glossy finish to it. So this would be like the wall that we have, the glass cube. And based on what you have, so if you have it subtracting 0 from here, you'll see that it's only the ones that have multiple reflections that are showing. So by having it go direct to Suzanne is blue, so that's only one bounce. So you're not subtracting anything, or by subtracting 0, it's staying at 1. When you go ahead and you change this, let's say we change this to 1, you're going to see that anywhere where there's 1 time that it bounces off and hits, so whether it's the mirror on the side or the glass cube, then that is still going to be blue, and that anything that bounces is secondary, so this is bouncing off one wall up to the top, then it would have that reddish tone to it. Then next we would have the transparent depth. So transparent depth works the same way, but it's only on anything that is transparent. We didn't have any transparent items originally, so we added in we have just a plane in here that I just have that's fully transparent. Same thing, there's one that's right behind it. Now by passing through one material, it's gonna turn red, but we can actually add multiple if we want to. So if we wanted to be able to come up here and drop this into this shader, so we're adding basically just another mix shader, adding in another diffuse with a completely different color, and then we're gonna take and move this over one. So we're gonna drop subtract into there, and this transparent one we're gonna drop into this factor. Now what this is gonna do is it's gonna allow it, as you see, as it passes through multiple objects. So direct light is blue, going through one object is red, going through 2 is yellow, because the yellow is going through 2 different ones. So that's why it's this mix shader all the way at the end. So it cuts through all those. And then lastly, we have transmission depth. So transmission depth works very similar. We go ahead and plug that into the same areas. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to have to do with how far the object is from the other one, how much depth it has. So that's why you have the blue and the yellow. Now if you change this and you go to different number, should change it to red because it's dropping 2 off of the depth. Okay, now if you had another object and you wanted to be able to do the same thing, let's say we did Shift D and we just kind of move this up, you'll see that now when you're going through multiple objects, it's going to have another color. So you have blue if it's direct, and same thing if it's going through anything that has transmission to it, which would be like glass, for example. It's going to go ahead and have multiple different colors. It's going to have red for one time it goes through and yellow for 2. So hopefully this gives you a little insight in how to use this. There's a lot of things having to do with light path node. Hopefully these are some cool things that you can play around with, and I appreciate everybody sticking through this one's a little bit longer, and just make sure you like, follow, and stay tuned for the next one.